Hello and welcome to English Digest. I'm Seb.
And I'm Elsie.
Today we're getting ready for summer with one of my favorite and most hated things to do. Can you guess what it is, Elsie? I'll give you a hint. It has something to do with travel.
It has something to do with travel, 跟旅行有关，然后是你最喜欢也是最讨厌的事情。Is it planning a trip?
Exactly, that's right. There's nothing I love more than hopping on a plane, train, or getting on my scooter and exploring new places. Planning, though, I hate planning. I'm a very indecisive person, so making decisions about where to go, where to stay, making a budget, all of that, it drains my energy. Most of the time, I prefer not to plan at all and then wing it. You know, make it up as you go along. But things don't always work out when you wing it. So there's that too. What do you do, Elsie? Are you more of a travel planner or are you more of somebody who wings it when you go on vacation?
Oh, it depends on the place I go. So if the destination is in Taiwan, which I'm really familiar with, I usually wing it like you.
Okay.
But if it's not in the country, I prefer to be a detailed travel planner. Detailed one.
I can see the importance of that. No, I completely understand. You know, if you're going to a tropical country, for example, you need to make sure that you have all of the injections, all of the vaccines, 疫苗, that you should have for that country, for example. Or maybe you need to prepare the right money. Some countries actually don't have ATMs, so you can't take out money when you're there. So you need to plan those things in advance. So, obviously, there are some benefits to planning and there are some benefits to winging it. What is the best trip you've been on, Elsie, that you just made up as you went along? Something that you didn't plan for at all or very little?
The second time I went to Thailand.
The second time?
The second time.
Okay.
So the first time I did plan it very thoroughly, but the second time I was pretty familiar with the country, so I just went there with my husband without planning beforehand. It was awesome.
Where did you go?
We went to Bangkok and Hua Hin Beach.
Ah, okay.
Yeah,
where the royal family lives.
Right. And we spent like 3 days there enjoying the beach, the breeze and the sunshine. We just laid there on the beach pretty much all the time.
Ah, that sounds like a dream. It sounds like paradise.
Right.
I also went to Thailand with no planning once. Yes.
How was it?
It was also fantastic. It was a wonderful experience. We went to Chiang Mai in the north. Chiang Mai. And that was just, I was talking to my friend. It was Monday and we knew that there was going to be a lianjia that week. And so we decided to just book a flight right there and then in that conversation, and then 3 days later we went.
连假，然后你就马上订机票去了。
Exactly,
Wow.
exactly. So we just went and it was a fantastic experience. Really wonderful vacation. So we are not going to be doing that today though. Today's writing assignment is all about planning properly for trips because as we said, sometimes you need to have a proper travel plan before you go on vacation. Sometimes you need to have all the steps laid out. Otherwise, things can go very wrong. And I think that is something that is true about today's assignment, isn't it, Elsie?
Right. So in today's episode, what are we going to do? We're going to teach you some of the English skills you'll need to make travel plans.
Exactly. So what is our assignment? What's the instructions for this writing project?
今天的提示，我们看到的是你的外国朋友 Evan 将于6月6日至12日到台湾旅游。他想要去台湾北部的九份、西门町，中部的日月潭，东部的太鲁阁和七星潭，这些地方你一定要记得非常清楚哦。等一下在你的这个 plan 计划当中都要写到。你要写一封120字以上的信给 Evan， 根据台风路线来设计行程。除了规划行程之外呢，你还可以建议他以上的地点交通资讯，或者是提供其他的建议。
You know, my sisters came to Taiwan 2 years ago and I took them to almost all of these places.
Really?
Exactly, yeah.
Which one was her favorite?
I think they really liked Hualien. They liked Qixingtan and obviously Taroko Gorge. They thought it was amazing. We didn't like Jiufen so much, actually. I have to say. Yeah, it was too busy the day that we went. It
太多人了 too many tourists.
We spent so long on the bus, and then it was busy on the 老街, on the old street. And so it was not the highlight, but 花莲 was amazing.
OK, 那这边同学们要注意的是呢，你必须要以 Phoebe 在姓末署名，不能够使用自己的真实名字，所以我不能写 Elsie， 不能写 Seb， 全部的人都要用 Phoebe。这个非常重要哦，因为你写上真实名字，像在透露你是谁。
Just like Evan has a lot to fit in his trip, we also have a lot to fit in our letter. In 120 words, you need to help him plan his itinerary so that he can have a great time in Taiwan, in spite of that nasty typhoon.
Okay, but what is an itinerary?
Glad you asked. An itinerary is a plan you make before a trip that includes a list of the places you will visit, what you want to do in each place, where you will stay, what you want to eat, all of those things. Making a travel itinerary is especially good if you're only going away for a short amount of time, like a week or a few days.
Okay, 所以 itinerary 这个名词指的是旅行计划、预定的行程。
I noticed the instruction also says we should give Evan transportation suggestions. Elsie, what transportation information do you think might be useful to a foreigner that is visiting Taiwan for the first time?
第一次来台湾的外国人当然要先知道，在台湾旅游是非常方便的。Traveling Taiwan is very easy, so you can travel by train 火车 by high-speed rail 高铁 by bus 公车 and by MRT 还有捷运给你使用。I recommend foreigners get 2 useful tools. Do you know what they are?
One of them should be a easy card. How do I say that in Chinese?
悠游卡。
悠游卡。
对，悠游卡太方便了。And 4G SIM card so that you can have the internet. You can
That's
have the
very
connection
useful.
to go online and search. 所以呢，有了这些工具 I think they'll be fine.
Yes. So what is the first thing we need to know in order to help Evan out? We can't write a letter if we don't know how to write a letter. Letters have a different format to other writing structures. How we should organize our letters is something that we're going to be looking at now. So how do we do this, Elsie?
所以在 letter writing 简函写作里面格式是很重要的哦。你要写上包括称谓、日期、结尾语和署名等等的讯息。那这个月的简函写作呢，我们是要写信给外国的朋友，写给熟悉的亲戚朋友的时候啊，信件的格式不用太正式。第一个我们要注意的是呢，称谓可以用 dear 加上名字，像是 Dear Seb、Dear Elsie。那日期呢，可以写在称谓上方靠左边或靠右边对齐。结尾语呢，一般我们会用 best wishes 或是 best。还有 sincerely yours sincerely， 或者是 truly yours truly, your friend， 这些都是可以使用的。
You know what one of my favorite ones is? I often, when I do, for very informal emails or letters, I might write cheers.
Cheers.
This is not really one for you to use in your exams, but it's very good, you know, once you're speaking to actual native speakers, especially speakers from the UK. Cheers is a word we use a lot in the UK that means thanks, C-H-E-E-R-S, cheers. But it also means ganbei. So we use it when we're socializing, and we also use it to say thank you and to end emails. So I could say, hey, Elsie, here's that file you asked for. Cheers, Seb.
Cheers, Seb. 所以是一个比较轻松，像是在写 email 给你朋友的时候可以用的。好，再来，刚刚说到结尾语，那结尾语要放哪边呢？要写在信件结尾下方空一行的右下角，或是靠左对齐信件。那署名的时候呢，你可以姓氏和名字都写，也可以只写名字。至于结尾语的下方对齐结尾语，那你记得吗？我们这一篇指定的署名是 Phoebe。好，再来我们要注意到的是呢，这是一封写给朋友的信函，语气你要真诚，并且要展现好客精神跟热情，因为他要来台湾玩嘛，对不对？所以同时要注意提示，在规划行程的时候要搭配台风路线图，合理的安排行程。所以如果那个地方会狂风暴雨，你就不要带他去。那最后呢，简函写作通常是以第一人称来叙述。
There are lots of different phrases you can use to open and close a letter, or an email for that matter. So not just cheers, not just the ones we've spoken to, but which ones are most appropriate really depends on who you are writing to. You guys may already know that we often start letters with the phrase dear and then the name of the addressee. This is a formal greeting that can be used for most situations, so you can never really go wrong by saying dear. If you're not sure, just put dear. So long as you know the addressee's name, though, we can't just say dear on its own. It's not exactly the same as the Chinese phrase 亲爱的, because you can just say 亲爱的 on its own, can't you? Whereas if you just say dear and then start your letter, it looks like you have a typo, like you made a mistake in your letter. And that's a common mistake I've seen a lot in Taiwan. Okay, so now we know how we're going to be writing this letter, it's time for us to think about our content. There's a lot of information we need to consider today, isn't there? We need to read a weather forecast, we need to consider Evan's interests, and we need to think about transportation. With so much to think about, it's hard to know immediately what the best way of organizing our ideas is. Brainstorming can be very helpful when there are a lot of different elements to your story. What is brainstorming again, Elsie?
Brainstorming is related to our brain, so 就是要写作前的脑力激荡很重要. We can gather more ideas in this way. 可以帮助我们激发出不同的想法.
Exactly. We are actually doing something called drawing out a mind map, which if you look at your magazine, you'll see is kind of a graphic where you have one idea in the middle and then lots of other smaller ones which are related to it organized around. So if you look at your magazines, in the example, the writer has gathered their ideas for Evan's itinerary, his travel plan, into 3 groups. They've listed Evan's desired locations, the places he wants to go, a travel schedule, a list of times he'll be in each place, and transportation information. What else do you think they could include in this map?
OK, 所以我们这边先来看哦，刚刚有 schedule 行程，像是6月6号、6月7号在哪边，好，然后一连串的把 Evan 的需求都纳入进去。那再来还有 destination 地点，再来是 transportation information 交通资讯也在里面。那我觉得他还可以再列出台风可能造成的影响。I think he can write something about typhoon.Exactly.
It was in the assignment, wasn't it? So we need to think about the typhoon.
没错。
And obviously, there are some places that you don't really want to go during a typhoon.
Right.
Yeah, I don't think it's very fun to go to Taroko Gorge in a typhoon. In fact,
or Qingxingtan.
Or Qingxingtan, yeah. In fact, those 2 places, I think, are quite dangerous during a typhoon. You get rock falls are very common in Taroko Gorge when it's been raining a lot. So you should avoid Taroko Gorge when the weather has been very bad. You don't want to get hit in the head with a rock. Anyway, now that we've got our ideas on paper, let's think about how we are going to convert this into a nice, well-formulated letter. It's time to develop our outline. If you look at the example in your magazine, the first paragraph gives us an overview of the letter. The writer greets Evan, lets him know about the typhoon, and explains that they will help. The second paragraph goes into more detail about Evan's itinerary. But hold up for a minute. How should we structure our paragraphs?
OK, 所以第一段我们当然是要先在开头的地方和 Evan 打招呼。We have to greet Evan first. 然后也要让他知道 Typhoon is coming, 台风要来了。那也要让他晓得你是会帮助他安排好行程的，所以就算是台风来，他也不用担心。第二段你才仔细跟 Evan 说他的行程。那这边第一个主题句呢，打招呼的句子我们可以说什么？ I'm glad that you are finally coming to Taiwan. 我很开心你终于要来台湾了。再来告诉他I have to tell you some bad news. 有些坏消息要告诉你。A typhoon overlaps with part of your trip.
Right. That can really mess with your plans. When something overlaps with something, then it happens at the same time. So, for example, I want to meet up with you for lunch, but my meeting this morning is going to overlap with my lunch break. It's going to happen at the same time, or it's going to start before, but it will continue until lunch is already happening. So it overlaps with my plans.
没错，所以 A overlaps with B 代表 A 和 B 两者重叠了。那这边 B 就告诉 Evan 说，很不幸的台风会跟你的行程部分的行程重叠到。再来呢，转一个方式告诉他 Here's some good news.Okay. 有好消息咯，然后再接着告诉他你要带他去哪里玩，and then you can inform him with the itinerary, right?
Exactly.
所以第一个 Take the morning train to Eastern Taiwan when you arrive. 你要先搭火车到东台湾。再来 Stay at your hotel on June 8th and 9th. 你要待在你的旅馆，时间是6月8号跟9号。再来 Go to 九份 on June 10th and 11th. 6月10号跟11号我们会去九份。再来是 Visit 西门町 on the last day. 最后一天安排到西门町。那这边都讲完之后呢，你要有一个 concluding sentence 结论句 See you soon.Exactly.
Okay. You know, I did this exact itinerary plan when my sisters came. Yeah, when they came, we went straight from the airport to Taroko Gorge. We didn't even go to my house. We went straight there. So it was very tiring for her because she just flew from London.
Right.
But it is a good way to make the most of your time. And actually, something interesting about this letter is you can use this structure for writing essays and also writing promotional content in English as well.
Right.
Because if you look at these two paragraphs, the first one lays out a problem that the reader has. The second one lays out a solution. So if you're writing to convince someone, this is a really good strategy. Use your first paragraph to talk about a problem that you think the reader has. So, for example, let's say you're trying to sell a car. You can talk about how it's difficult to find a car that's affordable, that's good quality. That can be your first paragraph. It's talking about things that the reader might be thinking. They might be thinking, I've been looking for a car for a really long time and I can't find an affordable one. And so you're speaking to their problems. The second one, just like in our letter, gives a solution. It says, okay, don't worry. I know what you can do. You can do this to have a good trip, or you can do this to get a good car. It's the same strategy. So you can think about this when you're doing your outline for other writing projects as well.
没错，所以呢，第一段先确认问题，第二段提出问题解决的办法。
Exactly.
在很多的文章当中都可以用到。
Okay, guys, now I want you to see if you can organize the information in your brainstorm map into an outline like the one in the magazine. Think about what ideas your 2 to 3 paragraphs should express. What should your topic sentence be? What about the supporting points? Once you've finished, rejoin us and we'll take a look at 2 example letters, one simple and one advanced. Okay, so our first example here is going to be using some of the sentences we looked at when we were working out our outline. So let's begin by looking at this basic sample. Basic sample. May 21st, 2021. Dear Evan, I'm so glad that you're finally coming to Taiwan. But I have to start with some bad news.Your trip is too short to comfortably fit a visit to Sun Moon Lake. It's too far out of the way, and besides, a typhoon overlaps with part of your trip. This complicates things a little, but don't worry, I have you covered. Now to the good parts. When you arrive, take the morning train to Taroko Gorge. Spend the night there, and before you head back, relax with some beach time at Qixingtan.It's close to the train station. On June 8th and June 9th, stay at your hotel. Typhoons here are no joke. I suggest watching some Taiwanese TV and movies, since they're not always easy to obtain outside the country. On June 10th and 11th, go to Jiufen. You'll love it. Save Ximending for your last day, especially since I'll be back in Taipei to show you around. It's reachable by MRT.So you can easily get to the airport from there too. See you soon. Your excited friend, Phoebe. Okay, so this sample, it really ticks all of the right boxes. We have all of the information we needed in the assignment. Phoebe is addressing the typhoon. She's saying there's a problem, but she's also giving a lot of detail, saying exactly what Evan can do to make the most of his trip. What did you think of her plan?I
think she's trying really hard to help Evan here, right? She tries to take care of Evan's needs while protecting him from typhoon.
Exactly. And I like that she says that he should only go to one place outside of Taiwan. I remember when I came to Taiwan for the first time, I only had 6 or 7 days. And so I decided to go to Kaohsiung because it was... And to Kending, because it was easier to get to than some other places. I thought that maybe if I went to Taidong, it would be too slow and I couldn't do something the same day I traveled.
Right.
So it seems like a very good travel plan.
Yeah.
There are lots of different ways of handling this assignment, and it looks like this writer focused more on the itinerary than on the typhoon, which is fine. You can do both. As we see, the first paragraph focuses more on giving an overview, 摘要, of what this letter is going to say. She greets Evan, points out a problem with his itinerary, that Sun Moon Lake is too far away to fit into such a short visit, and she mentions the typhoon. It's all there. What did you think about the first paragraph, Elsie?
所以我觉得呢，他和我们前面提到的是相同的。Phoebe 先跟 Evan 打招呼，他有做到，然后跟他说很高兴你终于来台湾了。但是接下来呢，一个转折告诉 Evan 有坏消息，那因为时间太短，没有办法前往日月潭观光。再来 Phoebe 提到了台风会跟 Evan 的部分行程重叠，但是别担心 Don't worry, she's going to help him out.
I also love that she uses the phrase, I have you covered. When we say I have you covered, we mean I have the solution to your problem, or I'll help you out. It's a great informal phrase you can use in spoken or written English. For example, let's say Elsie and I go to the bus station and Elsie realizes she doesn't have her face mask, her 口罩, with her. I could say, don't worry, I have you covered, if I have a spare face mask that she can use. We can also say, I've got you covered in informal English too.
OK, 所以你听到这样子的说法的时候，就可以不用担心了，因为对方他就是要告诉你，他会帮你搞定事情，所以你不用过度担忧。I have you covered 或是 I've got you covered 都是可以说的。
We can also say that someone is covering someone, or I could say, I will cover for you. That is when for example, if Elsie can't come to work and I do her job for her, then I am covering for Elsie. Or if Elsie wants to sneak out of the office, doesn't want to come into work, and I'm going to tell a lie for Elsie, tell the boss that, she's
so
sick,
nice
I saw
you.
her yesterday, then I'm covering for Elsie.
Cover for somebody.
Exactly. In the second paragraph, the writer goes into more detail on Evan's plan, explaining how he can get from place to place and what he should do when the weather is bad. Phoebe says that typhoons are no joke. We say that something is no joke when it is serious or dangerous and requires careful attention. For example, Mrs. Wallace's English class is no joke. She gives us lots of homework, and she is a very strict teacher. Or another one, cigarette addiction is no joke. It ruins your health and costs a lot of money.
True. So when something's no joke, 代表某事情不是开玩笑的，好，不是说说笑笑就过去的，是要必须严肃对待的。那第二段呢 ，Phoebe 开始告诉 Evan 行程的内容，也告诉他 Typhoons are no joke. 这里的台风不是开玩笑的。And earthquakes here are no joke too, right?
Exactly. You should know what to do in a typhoon. You should know what to do in an earthquake, and COVID-19 is also no joke. You should know how to take care of yourself and take care of other people around you. So, things that you should take seriously. Another serious thing we need to look at is our advanced sample, which we're going to take a look at now. Advanced sample. May 21st, 2021. Dear Evan, I'm so excited that you're going to be here soon. I see that you have plans to go to a lot of famous places. Normally, these would all be pretty easy to get to, and visiting them all within a week would be a piece of cake. Regrettably, though, it's typhoon season, and there's a storm coming in that'll make it dangerous, not to mention unpleasant, to travel once it makes landfall. Since I've got the typhoon route in front of me, I've got a few amendments to your itinerary to suggest based on the storm's predicted path. I suggest heading out of Taipei first, as the typhoon won't arrive until June 8th, and you'll be able to avoid the weekend crowds in popular tourist spots that way. You might have to choose between Sun Moon Lake and the Hualien locations for June 7th and 8th, as traveling between the two takes a long time. Either one is worth seeing in my book. When you get back to Taipei on June 8th, plan to hunker down indoors by mid-afternoon. Since you wanted to visit Ximending, I might suggest renting a KTV room there, or you could go to the cinema and enjoy a bunch of movies. Let me know your plans because I'm keen to join. Since the typhoon will pass by the next day, we can go to Jiufen together on the 11th. Remember to bring a sturdy raincoat and shoes with a good grip for a few wet days. I'm really excited to see you and travel with you. Best, Phoebe. Okay, so the advanced sample definitely takes a more typhoon-oriented turn. It's definitely talking more about the weather.
Right.
And there is some great vocabulary in here that you can use in your own letter if you want to take this approach. One of my favorite phrases here is hunker down. In the second paragraph, when you hunker down, you stay somewhere safe during a storm, disaster, or during a difficult time. On Taiwan's typhoon days, I often hunker down at home because it's dangerous to go outside. If you have trouble remembering this phrase, you can remember that it sounds a lot like the word bunker, a special underground space people hide in when bombs are falling or during a war. So how do you like to hunker down during typhoon days, Elsie?
Okay, so during a typhoon day, I hunker down at home just like you. 那 hunker down 这个片语记得是准备长期逗留在某处。那在这个进阶范文里面呢，提到了更多关于台风的事情哦，是跟基础的不一样。提醒 Evan 现在是台风季节，而且即将到来的暴风雨一旦登陆，将使得旅行变得更危险。进阶范文呢，也使用了更生动的字和片语，像是 make landfall 登陆。
Oh yes, donglu is another good word actually.
Right.
I'm glad you said that one. Landfall is when something makes landfall. That's a phrase that we use specifically when we're talking about typhoons, storms, hurricanes. When they make landfall, they blow into the land from the sea. Because Taiwan is an island, you'll see the phrase make landfall a lot in weather forecasts during the summer. Normally, typhoons make landfall in Yilan, Hualien, or Taidong, blowing across the country.
那这边我们还看到 typhoon route 或是 route， 它指的是台风的路线图，还有 predicted path 预测路径，都是使用很棒的字。
Exactly, and that's actually what you can see in the magazine. When you've got that picture there with the typhoon over the map of Taiwan, that is the predicted path. And you see that a lot in the news on the weather forecast in the summer in Taiwan, don't you? I also really liked the grammar pattern not to mention unpleasant, which is in the parenthesis in the first paragraph. And there's a storm coming in that'll make it dangerous not to mention unpleasant. When we use not to mention, we mean basically like 更不用说 in Chinese. So we're saying that it's dangerous for the typhoon, but even more obvious is the fact that it's unpleasant. So everybody should know that it's unpleasant, and it's probably even more unpleasant than it is dangerous. So that is another good one that you can use there.
那进阶版呢，又比基础版考虑到的层面更广。他在第二段一开头就先建议 Evan 离开台北，同时避开周末的人潮。
Exactly. And lastly, I mentioned weekend crowds. Those are just the crowds of people you see at the weekend, which is obviously a peak time. And with that, we've reached the end of today's episode. You guys now have all the skills you need to plan travel itineraries in English or talk about your travel plans with a friend. Which leads me to a closing question. Where do you guys plan on traveling to next? We'll let you discuss that now, but for us, it's time to say goodbye. I'm Seb.
I'm Elsie.
And you've been listening to English Digest. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye.
Bye.